how do I start this again? It's been a while since I've done one of these podcasts, especially on location. Editor, keep that in. Welcome back to the Beyond the Scope podcast, presented by NDMD Productions. And today, this episode is sponsored by TrueLearn, one of the best board prep materials out there. I will be using it for residency. All the residents I know use it, but more on them later. We have a very special episode today because this is my first recording post-match. And this is the start of the last 3 episodes of at least season 2 of the Beyond the Scope podcast. I definitely do have plans to figure out a way to continue it and renew for season 3, but that will be in my new home in New Haven. So, but do want to take a moment to introduce fellow medical student now, which is different from the last time you were on the podcast, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. It feels so good to hear that.
Right?
It's crazy.
So, Will, he's now a first-year med student.
Yes, sir, yeah. It's time's flown, dude. About to start second year, so it's exciting. Kind of scary, but,
Yeah. So you've been here from, some of the first couple episodes of the podcast, and I figured, I'm visiting in Kansas City. We'll do this flip classroom style. How about that? Because I know we've had so many conversations, both in person and over Xbox Live party chat.
Maybe too many times.
Raging over Halo in the 4th year bliss. But yeah, I know we've had so many conversations kind of reflecting on med school as a whole, now that I'm really in the last couple weeks and months of it. And I figured, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about the experience and many other medical students or pre-meds have out there, or just people in general. So I figured let's run one to reflect on what in the world happened the past several years. Also, I did an awful introduction, so Will, briefly introduce yourself again.
Hey, I'm Will Doik. I'm a first-year medical student. I'm about to enter my second year. Before coming here, I was on a gap year, or 2 gap years. I worked as a caregiver and just to get some clinical experience. And then I applied to medical school, and thanks to this guy and a lot of other people, I got here and learned a lot along the way, not just about becoming a good student, but just about, living life very intentionally. And so, yeah, that's me, I think.
We're both from Augusta, Georgia. Master's hat, not sponsored here up front, but full disclosure, at the time of this recording, it is Master's Week and Master's Weekend. So if there is a laptop in front of the camera, slightly out of frame, playing the Masters, no, there isn't.
Yeah, no, we're not watching it.
But I actually want to kick this off with, I think, a short story, if you're comfortable telling it. Because the last time you were on the podcast, you talked about kind of this journey that you had to come to medical school. And then I get asked a lot, been on podcasts and other places about how kind of the whole YouTube and the media thing has shaped my medical school experience. And I think you told me a story about how that podcast changed, your experience to medical school. And if you're comfortable, I would love you to share that story, because I think that's why anybody should be doing YouTube or social media or whatever, because that's the impact of it.
Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah. So that was, I think, just after I got into medical school, we shot that episode. And just to briefly touch on it, I talked about how, like, my journey going from someone who was relatively maybe afraid to be ambitious because of whether it be my classmates or just my own self-talk, convincing myself that I wasn't smart enough or wasn't hardworking enough to pursue medicine. Going from that and then getting to college and recognizing that I did want to do something ambitious and trying to fight all those fears and insecurities and self-doubts and get myself into medical school. And it was a really important journey for me. And I had talked about it with, it was like you or some other close friends and some family. But it was really just that, a small group of people. And I didn't tell anybody that we had shot that episode. I just was like, let it be on the internet. So that's really cool. It was a good opportunity to share that story. But then I was visiting my grandparents, and they brought it up. And they were like, yeah, well, so to backtrack, my grandparents, like, my grandma's from Vietnam, my grandfather's from England. And, sometimes my grandma will look at videos from Vietnam just to kind of like reminisce and look back on and think about what life was back in Vietnam. But as she was scrolling in her YouTube recommendations, you popped up.
Well, that'd be my channel, but your face.
Yeah. Well, his channel, but I popped up. And so she went to tell my grandpa, she was like, our grandson's on the TV right now. He's on YouTube. And they were just like, so like confused. And then they went and watched it, and it was cool. I mean, it was funny, but it was really sweet because they both, reached out to me, and we talked, and they're like, I had no idea that that's what this journey meant for you. We know you wanted to do medicine, but we didn't know that it meant all these other things to you. And I think it highlighted to me just how important sharing with your family is and spending time with your family is. Because you grow up and you have this idea of like your family dynamic, and I think a lot of people don't think about doing anything to further or change that dynamic. Like that was me, but then I saw what them seeing that podcast meant to them, and I realized like maybe I should do more to share with my family or get closer with them. And like they have such a big interest, and I've gotten a lot closer to my grandparents because of that. I know that they're going to be watching this video. Sometimes they will tell me what Andy's up to.
What?
Yeah, like when you posted a video, you were in Texas.
Yeah.
And like, we'll send weekly updates, or for me, sometimes it's monthly, if even. And they're like, yeah, like, we know you're doing well. And it's really cool that Andy's over in Texas right now doing stuff. I'm like, he is? And so they're definitely going to see this. And I love y'all a lot. And I just am so glad that something like that podcast helped me open that door and showed me, how important that family connection is. I know it sounds like so obvious, like, yeah, you should care about your family, but sometimes you don't recognize how much more you could do until something like that happens, Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a really cool experience I had with that last episode.
And I mean, that's why I do this, man. Like, I get asked all the time, like, what's the next chapter of the channel, stories and everything. And, my biggest response is, one, of course, things are going to look different. It's going to change. Residency brings new challenges, but at the same time, new experiences, new people, new stories into my life. And, like, my content and what kind of art I want to make will change as that environment does as well. But the second thing I tell people is, at its core, it is about sharing people stories. Because it's stuff like that. And every time, even during the interview process or like when I'm visiting different cities and everything, it's just like one rando recognizing me, I'm just like, one, oh my God, you watch my videos? Like, people actually watch the silly little things that I put out on the internet in hopes that one person's impacted by them. But of course, obviously we grew up in Augusta together. Like, we have that context there. So it, quite literally and figuratively, it hits a little bit closer to home to hear that impact is there. And, yes, could I stop at any time? Yeah. I don't have to. This is fun to me. It's relaxing. It is a balance that I found in my medical training that has helped me to become a better doctor, as well as balance kind of the ebbs and flows of stress that you are just now getting very, very, very familiar with.
Oh yeah.
but it's stuff like no medicine is gonna do that. No treatment's gonna do that. No surgery is gonna do that. And like I think the medical profession as a whole, and this is a rabbit hole that I will close very quickly before I get too deep. But there is always this constant fear of social media and YouTube and cameras and everything in the medical profession. Some of it is, valid for privacy reasons, but a big part of it is just like fear of the unknown. And there are so many bad examples of what it can do that it overshadows like the healing and the connection it can do when it's done well. And I'm just grateful enough to have been on that side of, seeing a lot of good things come from sharing, at the beginning, really other people's stories, and then slowly mine, too. So it's been, I'm very grateful. Honestly, over the past couple weeks, I've been uploading a lot of final videos, match, the last 73 questions. It's like a lot of finales, wrapping things up. So it feels. I just want to say thank you. Like, if anybody is watching or listening to this podcast, wherever platform you're in, if you haven't heard enough from the recent finale videos, just thank you for watching and following along, whether this is your first one or you've seen 300 of my silly little things. But yeah, I definitely wanted to just hear that story, because man, if that's happening for you, what about all my other guests that have come through, all the people that have been on the 73 question series, and how many literal physicians, future doctors around the world that's putting out there. Anyways, long tangent over. I'm going to turn the host side to you, because we're just going to see where this conversation takes us as far as dissecting and reflecting over what you'd like to know of.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. First year of medical school is it is actually so awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are getting ready to apply, or they're finding their apartments, or entering their class group meets and meeting new people, and or they're getting ready to apply in the next few years or something. It's so stressful. It's tiresome. And I always have a special place in my heart for all the non-traditional people. I'm on the more traditional end of non-traditional. I wasn't out of school for that long, but I know how much harder it is trying to get into medical school when there's been a huge break and you got to figure out everything on your own. But everybody trying to get into medical school, it's so worth it. And any time that you get stressed in medical school, as I have done so many times throughout the past many months, I can always reflect back on what it took to get here, and I immediately have so much more energy and drive. I'm like, I can do this. I got here, and I think that's huge. But all that being said, yeah, I do have plenty of questions for someone who just matched to a small hospital in New Haven. No name or nothing like that. Not a Ivy League or anything like that.
Stop.
Though I I have so many questions, but I think just like being where I am and looking ahead for the next 3 years, I guess I just kind of want to hear you talk about like what it's been like getting to the other end of the tunnel and kind of winning the game. I mean, there is residency to go through, but like, how has that been? After matching and getting the email and then going to match day and seeing that you matched the place of your dreams, like.
You put it into the best words possible. It feels like you beat the game. And I still remember it's like my first couple of days of medical school. I remember one of our like admin walking up there and go, it's going to feel like a game, but your goal is not to make it a game. And as much as that is good intentioned, as much as that is the correct sentiment, it's still going to feel like a game. Unfortunately, the medical education system is built where you have to play your CV as if you are in a video game, like an RPG,
Yeah.
There's a necessary evil for board scores, for publication numbers, for extracurriculars, for doing things that sets you apart on paper. And then on top of that, you got to put skill points towards your interview skills and your storytelling. And by storytelling, I mean, how can you tell your story? And it is an exhausting process. I mean, especially in the era of, at least for me and for now, of virtual residency interviews. Zoom fatigue is real. On hour 3, you're staring at yourself in like your camera and going like, have I looked like that for the past 3 hours? Or my face hurts from smiling the entire time. And, of course, there are definitely specialties that are transitioning back to full in-person interviews. Who knows when you're watching or listening to this right now, your specialty could also be transitioning. I fully expect anesthesia probably in the next couple of years to be transitioning back to full in-person because, I mean, it's universal across the board. Like, virtual, you're not getting the whole gist of it. It's impossible to. But I understand the financial benefits of not having to travel everywhere. But with all that being said, it feels like you beat the game. Those few months leading up to match were dreadful. And it's because you are at the mercy. You've done everything you can. And then your fate is literally in other people's hands. And then the whole waiting process is just ridiculous to me. Like, I'm so envious of the ophtho and urology people because isn't it logical to receive word that you matched and where you matched on the same day? Right? Anyway.
God.
But, like, of course they got a couple months to look for places to live, figure out move and everything. But really the worst part about it is, like, when you submit, you're wrapped up with all your interviews. I made actually a video about this this topic of, like, med school purgatory. And I was seeking to fill my days. And that's how I got into golf super heavy, because, like, that takes 5-6 hours out of my day, and it's just me versus me. Because if I just sit by myself, it's like I was done with clinicals. I didn't have any formal studying to do, and I just wanted, like, a yes or a no. Like, do I have a job after med school or not? So, just for me, that Monday of yes, you matched. That's all I needed. I would have been happy anywhere on my rank list, and that's a me thing. I know other people's situations are very variable. They have specific places where they want to go, whether that to be near family or to be near a partner or something, where that's more important. So they get nervous on Friday. But I was like, dude, screw Friday. Like, just let me know I have a job. Let me know I'm going somewhere. Because most people in medical school are the hyper type A. And they're all planners, right?
Yeah.
You see them. So
Oh, yeah.
it's so difficult to be like, oh, where are you going? Or where are you excited to move or anything? And for months, my answer was, I hope so. Like, so, you know, there's always that asterisk of if I match. So the second that asterisk is gone, it's bliss. It feels so good. I definitely am in a stage where I'm trying to enjoy life as much as possible. You know, enjoy travel carefree without having that weight on my shoulders of like, oh God, am I enjoying this? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm not gonna have a job, and then I have to scramble. So it is this nice feeling. I still rock back and forth between like feeling if I deserve it or not, and that's honestly just like a me thing of, you know, constantly aiming for perfection and aiming for like the best I can. And there are many steps to my story of, you know, ending up where I did for residency that, you know, I have not shared on camera, some of which I will, some of which I won't. But I'm very, very grateful for a lot of just God moments looking back that landed me to where I am. Oh, I don't know if that even answers your question.
No, yeah, that's huge, because I think, and I'll like speaking, like I can't speak from personal experience about that purgatory as far as like, you know, waiting to hear where I'm gonna match or if I even matched like goes. But the most similar experience I have to that is the waiting for the medical school acceptance, and just like, you know, if you're submitting, you know, in early like in the summer of that application cycle, you could be waiting like very well up like a year to find out, you know. And it's just so awful because like there's just this human thing that we have where we need some sort of direction, even if it's awful, you know, because then at least then I can plan and I can have, you know, a route to go through. So yeah, I think that's huge. And do you think a lot of people think about that beforehand, or is that something that catches most people by surprise in residency? Because I feel like a lot of medical students are just so used to being like, okay, I'm type A, I've got my plans in order. You know, I'm gonna get into medical school, I'm gonna get into residency, I'm gonna get my job, and I'm gonna have all these other goals. But then the whole like, you know, like purgatory thing you're talking about, like, is that like the first time people have to, in your experience, learn how to live in the present and like put, whether religious or not, put their fate into God's hands and just be like, I hope this works out? Like, do you?
So, yes and no. I think definitely the more and more non-traditional students that I knew who, you know, have families and partners and everything, they have like kids, it's one of those things where, man, life moves on, whether or not this happens. Like, I have a wife, I have a kid, you know, a couple kids, like we're gonna raise our family. And like they're already at a point where they realize like life is more or bigger than this moment, where, you know, for a lot of people, this quite literally is their first time and their first, like, for some people, their first job, period.
Yeah.
They're going for one hell of a way to get their first job.
Yeah.
But I think at the very least, it catches everyone off guard, because in that 4 or 5 year period of medical school, that is the first time that you go from like 500 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So even if this isn't your first time, like having this waiting period, whether, like you said, it's for medical school or some other, you know, career or job or like just opportunity period, in those 4 years, you are so used to go, lecture to lab to to clinic, to the OR, to the research meeting, to the studies late at night, and then you wake up, do it all over again, and then remember to eat and sleep. And like for the first time, you go, I have time? I can go play 9 holes. I can try this recipe I haven't yet before. And that always catches people off guard, no matter how like seasoned you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everybody after they have that answer, right? That is the fun part. It's just planning out the future. I don't think there's many people who are, even the people who match like neurosurgery. I don't think there's anybody particularly nervous about residency. At least at this point, it's still the excitement.
Yeah. You know, like there's this huge period of bliss in fourth year that you're talking about, the fourth year promised land. And you were also talking about how like you're playing the game, you know, up until you know that you've got the job. This is something I've struggled with is like, I know for you, I think we've talked about it. I don't know how much you've talked about on the channel, but like YouTube being a great way for you to help kind of mediate the stresses of school and playing the game, right? It's this great creative outlet for you, and it keeps you accountable with school. For the average like medical student, how do you think they should, I guess, set boundaries with school so that way fourth year isn't the first time that they're getting to try that recipe or they're getting to play Halo ranked or they're you know, because my big thing is I'm playing the game, but then I get so tired and exhausted and I just want to do the things I loved before, but I feel like I'm sacrificing my future for those things. You know, I feel like I'm cashing out too early, but that also feels unhealthy to not do that. Like, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, about that.
I'm gonna just tell you straight up right now, you're not gonna escape that feeling, especially in medical school. Just the nature of the population they gather in their classes.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's pushing themselves and then like unintentionally pushing each other to work harder, but not necessarily work smarter. And like even I definitely experienced a lot of that whole go crash. Oh God, I'm burnt out. I take like a couple weeks to recover. I feel like doing nothing. Okay, I feel better again. Go, crash.
Yeah.
And it's a brutal cycle. I don't think I really broke it until honestly like third year, which is quite a time to really break the cycle. But it was more of a mental thing, of just understanding, hey, like you can't keep doing this. You do this in residency, like you're not even making it through. So you gotta cut that out now. And I definitely am grateful for YouTube and those hobbies there because it forced me to be efficient. It forced me to go, if I have this trip lined up to interview this person, I have to study ahead, and then I can't like just go through lectures. That's not efficient. I got to do Anki or, really make sure things are tailored to go along with what I do, but in a way that I can take anywhere and study anywhere. So I never have an excuse. Like those are the strategies I adopted in order to balance things. So it's like you learn to work really, really hard so that you get to enjoy that hobby or that part of your life that you don't want to give up. But you're never going to really escape that feeling of what I'm doing right now is somehow some sort of distraction or like subtracting the progress that you've made in studying or like medical training, really. As it's very easy to look at what you do outside of medicine as never related at all to medicine. Therefore, it is not beneficial to progress. When in reality, it is the exact opposite. Everything that you do outside of medicine is making you a better doctor, better physician, because at the end of the day, those are the things that connect you to people who are your patients.
Yeah.
Your care team, the residents, nurses, other personnel, attendings, like they're people. And even I found throughout clinicals, like I can't talk to them about the pathoma chapter I read yesterday, the 50 Anki cards that I did. What I'm doing, kids, I see they got like a Bluey plushie with them. I'm like, oh my gosh, you like Bluey? Who's your favorite character and all that? Get some comfortable. You see somebody, listening to music or like a band shirt on, like AC/DC or something. Like, oh my god, like what's your favorite song? Because like you have that context of you listening or you playing music, sports. Like I see them wearing a Masters hat. I go, oh my gosh, like I'm from Augusta. Who's your favorite golfer and everything? Those are things that like. In the moment, you're watching all these events and you're doing all these things outside, you feel like you're not making any progress. But in reality, that's what's helping you connect with people. And I didn't realize that. I didn't piece that together until really third year. When you start seeing patients, and you start interacting with other members of your care team, and you realize that like I can't talk just straight pure medicine to these people all the time. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience for them. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience for you, and you're taking like a large part of the joy of the field of medicine out of the equation. When you take the humanity out, the people side of it out, and you just turn it into science, that's like you're missing a big part of why people want to become doctors or should want to become doctors. So again, I'm not going to lie to you and say that like that feeling is going to disappear and never happen. You're going to be doing something that you enjoy and you're going to be like, I'm a complete slob. I'm not advancing my career. I should be studying right now. You could do everything I say listening and you're still going to have that feeling. But I think the way to not combat that, but grow out of that is to begin to contextualize it over time. As you start to get your feet wet in the medicine part, the human part of medicine, that's when you realize the value of your story and your special interests and experiences. Don't let that die, because that is what's going to make you it's going to build a connection between you and your patient, you and your care team, you and the families that you're interacting with, etc.
I haven't been to clinicals yet. It's coming up probably quicker than I want it to. But I guess my experience with trying to learn how to not throw away all the parts of your old self and sacrifice it for future doctor you is the first few blocks of medical school. I don't think I gave myself any free time. Like I think I just was like, we're here to work. I'm paying tuition to be here. I'm not here to goof around. I'm like, let me sit down and lock in. And I did really, really well for the first few blocks. Like I crushed it. And I was like, on paper, like this is exactly what we need to be doing. But out of nowhere, I just like woke up one day and I was like, dude, I am like way too tired for this. I am exhausted. And I went back home for break. And, it's the first semester of medical school. You finish, you want to go home, you want to tell your family everything, you want to spend time with them because you haven't seen them in 6 months. And I think for most of my break,
just sleep?
I just slept. Yeah. I just slept like all day. It was like I would wake up, get a glass of water, go right back to sleep. And I'd wake up in the evening and do the exact same thing, go back to sleep. And it's just so ironic because like those family values or caring for other people values were like at the forefront of my mind at the beginning of school. But the way I treated myself and how unkind I was to myself put me in a state where I couldn't even interact with the people that mattered most to me.
Yeah.
And, you get one break, like one summer off after first year, and then it's go time. And if you're going into your preclinical years or you're in there now, I would really encourage you. Again, I don't know about, I've still got a lot more to go and learn, but from my experience so far, if you're going into first year, really do take the time to not give up on your hobbies, because it's not, you are taking care of yourself, but it affects the people around you too, like I remember my family, like, after I kind of got my energy back, they're like, yeah, we had no clue, like you're so tired, and like we were really concerned about you. And I, obviously I didn't mean to make them feel that way or convey to them that I wasn't interested in spending time with them. But like those, when you are treat yourself a certain way, like you're taking out a loan on later you will pay that back in full.
That's a great way of putting it.
And it'll eat you up, and it'll eat up people around you. So I would encourage you to, like he's saying, slowly contextualize what it means to make that free time, be kind to yourself. It's a couple extra Anki cards or world problems is not worth the time and relationship with your family or friends that you will never get back.
Yeah. And before we take a quick break, I do want to kind of wrap that statement up, because that was me. My family saw it. The people close to me very, very much saw it, and that's a big reflection of what medical school does to people. And anybody watching or listening to this podcast who is not in medicine but are the parents, the siblings, the boyfriend, girlfriend, partner of somebody who is in medical training right now, like, it's not personal. I'm telling you, it's not personal. When we come home looking like a zombie, and I've spent plenty of a night just being this beacon of frustration and anxiety to the people around me, and I didn't realize how I was affecting other people until much later down the road. And I try to be a little bit more cognizant of it now, but unfortunately it took that kind of like trial and error for me to get to that point. And so like, if you can at least acknowledge it sooner rather than later, you're on a better track to be a healthier companion to everybody around you. But on the way there, it's going to be rough seas. And again, I just want to thank like all the family and friends that are supporting people in medicine, especially medical students. Appreciate all the patience that you have. And for those who are just about to begin that journey or in the middle of that journey, or you're listening to what I'm saying and you're like, oh my God, the person that I'm supporting right now is exactly this right now. Just be patient. Supporting somebody in medicine is difficult. It's not easy, but we need people too. We definitely need people too. And those people are very, very special. With that being said, take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, TrueLearn, and then we'll be right back. I've said before numerous times on this channel, and I still stand by it, practice tests and practice questions are by far the most efficient and powerful way to prepare for your standardized exams, something medical training has a disappointingly large amount of. But in order to lighten the load and help you excel on your tests, I am proud to partner with TrueLearn, the sponsor of this episode. TrueLearn is a data-driven test prep resource with a 100% pass rate trusted by top institutions such as Harvard, Stanford, Mayo Clinic, and much more. Their smart banks with questions written by content experts give you the tools to succeed on your crucial board exams throughout your medical career. As a medical student, they offer prep for COMLEX 1 through 3, USMLE Step 1 and 2 CK, and USMLE and COMAT shelf exams. But it doesn't stop there. You have the same attention to detail and world-class practice test questions for PA, dental hygiene, MA, NP, nursing, OT, PT, speech therapy, pharmacy, and pharm tech licensing exams. For my residents, which I guess I will be soon, you also have resources for all your in-training exams, such as the ABA Basic for anesthesia, ABSITE for surgery, ABEM for EM, and much more. I've been using one of their smart banks to help me get a head start on my anesthesiology in training exam and have been blown away by their performance analytics, real-time national benchmarking, and thorough explanations that help me to learn from even my most facepalm-inducing incorrect answers. With thousands of questions for each exam, you will be sure to have all the knowledge to knock your exams out of the park. If you would like to try TrueLearn, use code NDMD25 for $25 off your first subscription. Again, that's code NDMD25 for $25 off TrueLearn's incredible smart banks. Happy studying, best of luck to all those prepping for exams as you watch and listen. And of course, thank you to TrueLearn for your support on this podcast and the channel.
All right, welcome back. Where were we, Will? We're talking about treating your family, I guess the effects that you being unkind to yourself can have on the people around you. Yep. Taking the time to enjoy the things that you love. Because if your logic is, well, I'll work hard now, and then later on I'll remember how to do the things I love. I'll learn that recipe. I'll play that video game. I'll take time to get good at that hobby. Like, at some point, you have to recognize that there is a bit of a sacrifice to the ultimate goal of being this dream doctor, right? Like, if you're going to pursue a hobby, like, you do have to take away from that. And there's a grieving process that will have to happen for you to make that connection permanent, and for it to mean something. And so doing it gradually, taking small breaks here and there, and slowly learning how to have balance with school is optimal. You don't want to get so far down to your career and look back on all this scorched earth and time you wasted, and be in a place of like, wow, I have everything. People are maybe looking at me in awe of me, but I hate being here. There's so much I wish I could have done. Mm-hmm. Time is the one thing that you cannot ever get back. You cannot ever, if you waste it, that's it, So being cognizant of that and something like that is what we were talking about. So, yeah.
Heavy opening back into the podcast. But yeah, I think that's a big overarching theme of my reflections from medical school, where I'm 24, going to graduate from medical school at that point. There's a lot of life lessons that I had to learn the hard way in medical school. I'm grateful for them. I definitely wish it didn't impact the people around me as much as it did. But with that being said, the fact that it did makes sure that I will never let that happen again, or at least very much try to minimalize it and catch it when it happens. And a lot of those themes are surrounding that, because that's the interesting thing about like being from a 7-year program. Like, that's all I've ever known. So, if not for those hard lessons, I would have kept going. Mm-hmm. And like thinking that is the right way to do it because it's all I've ever known. And I'm grateful that I kind of snapped out of it in my 4th year. And I was like, dude, there are things that are bigger than medicine. Like, of course, it's what I do, but it's not who I am. And that's the like interesting thing about non-traditionals too, that I learned a lot from, because I think people look at, particularly me at 24, and be like, what do you know about life and everything? But I think the beauty of having a camera and like collecting stories is I get to kind of absorb the lessons from people of all ages, all walks of life, and a lot of them do have the young parents and everything, and to kind of swallow some of their life lessons of, hey, this right here, this is what really matters. Like, life goes on outside the hospital. Life goes on past that research paper. That whether or not you honored a rotation, whether or not you got like 5 points higher than on your board score or not. Life goes on.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you're not feeling that
Yeah.
at all. You feel like your world ends or comes together based off of like this one event. And because of the program that I was in, it was always like, I'll be better after this test. I'll be better when my GPA is fixed. I'll be better after my MCAT. I'll be better when I get to medical school. I'll be better when this research paper is done, this board exam is done, after rotations are done. Man, I was saying that all the way up until match. I was saying that like I'll be better after I match. And so like my goal kind of moving forward is making sure like there's no more of I'll be better after like fill in the blank. It's, you know what, how can I be better now? So that's a big takeaway from the 4 years of medical school. And like, funny enough, that has nothing to do with medicine. And that's one of the biggest lessons that these 4 years has taught me.
No, I guess since we've kind of reflected on very important lessons, but maybe lessons we would have rather learned earlier or in a better manner, what are some really like good things that happened along the way that you're like, oh, I completely like learned this about myself in the right way, and like I'm so glad I had this experience. Like I don't know if I'm articulating that well, but for me anyway, and I mentioned this on the last episodes, and like I came from a very insecure place because of just the environment I grew up in. People kind of forming academic cliques, very obsessed with being type A and performing well, and looking down on people like me who are way more type B. But the thing I've learned in medical school that I didn't have in undergrad was how to be a little bit more confident despite my personality differences or goal differences with other people. Like, I don't think I could have learned how to work as efficiently as I do, and just kind of, I don't always do this, but stay in my own lane and be happy with what I'm doing. I think the pressure and the speed has made me kind of realize, one, that I need to start putting to practice some of the lessons we talked about earlier, but two, I need to be confident in what I'm doing here, because I can't worry about what other people are doing. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to operate on the things that I care about and be a good doctor. I just don't think that the self, like the confidence that I've gotten in the past year, I don't think I would have gotten that anywhere else. Like, what do you have in that regard, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think something that very much caught me off guard was, one, the impact that this stuff can have outside of the hospital. But to a greater extent, you kind of mentioned like being happy and kind of staying in your own lane and doing like what's you, right? I think a good example, a fresh example, is Jared McCain, I think that's his name. Duke point guard. He just declared for the NBA draft, but he an absolute baller on the court, but he was getting a lot of flack because he's this like super exorbitantly happy, positive, just doing TikTok dances and stuff, just like he's the vibes guy. Yeah. And like, he started having like NIL deals with like nail polish companies and stuff, and everybody's looking at him like, dude, what is wrong with you? But like, it's because he was just happy being his weird little self. And like it kind of comes to show, like, obviously I'm not a Duke basketball player, an NBA draft pick prospect, but like being your own weird, crazy little self gets you way further in life than trying so hard to fill a mold that like you're not really cut out for. And like, yes, I still had to grind out for the board scores and still put effort into the hard academic research side of things and get that squared away. That's not going to leave. But I didn't take on the more traditional like club and clinic leadership positions that I think most residency committees expect to see on a CV when you're applying to residency. And that was like a very scary thing for me, especially like in first year when I was like, oh gosh, like how much time do I commit to this? Like, is this worth it? Are people going to take this seriously? And that was like a gamble that I took for the 4 years that I've been doing this. It's a huge gamble. But like, it was a mission, that I believed in. It was an art. Like, I use that word. I hate the word medfluencer. I hate the word influence. I hate the word creator. Because like, if you're creating content, that is entertainment, that is selling, that is looking for personal gain in order to influence somebody or like give a perspective that is like the status quo. When you create art, you are finding a mission in a story that you're trying to tell in order to inspire, motivate, commiserate, or comfort somebody else. And that's been my mission of every video I upload on like, you know, any sort of picture or video I upload across my channels. And like, everybody was gonna put me in one bucket or the other of like whatever social media guy. Like whatever they thought, I was like, I believe in my art. And so I have to stick to that gun. I'm just grateful that that mission has been apparent enough in the things that I've done over the past several years that even programs started to see it as art. And, you know, obviously, like where I'm going is very, very appreciative of it. I do have a story to tell about that I told you.
That's awesome.
But like, that's where I wanted to be. Places that saw that art and said, that is art.
Yeah.
Not a guy running around with a camera or you do social media.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's like the first time, because again, I was in this 7-year program, everything was lined up for me. All I had to do was go to the next step. I didn't have to go outside that outline.
Yeah.
So every time I look at that like crazy silver plaque in my room, it is a reminder to me of like, that was the first time that like you stuck to your guns, stepped outside that bubble that you never had to, and it paid off. Because like you have an idea, you have a mission, and like you have to see that to the end. And like, again, you know, I constantly battle being like thought of as the weird guy running around with the camera. And sure, a little bit of it was a confidence thing, but I think for me it was a lot more of a like, are you okay with not fitting the mold thing? We went to high school together, man. I was like stupid student body president, like student section leader, all that. Like we didn't have a lot of East Asians in my cohort, and I've talked about this a lot in some of my other videos where I very much rejected my Asian American identity for most of my childhood growing up. And so like my priority all the time was fit in. You're already different enough. Just shut up and do what everybody else is doing. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with the past years and all the work that I've done on social media and everything, that has really showed me that it's okay to not fit that mold, to cast your own, and then you start finding other people that were like bold or stupid enough to do the same thing with me across the country. And you know, I have wonderful friends, mentors, just literally everywhere. That, again, bold and / or stupid enough to make that same decision that I'm not going to be like everybody else, because I believe in the potential that like this mission has, and I can reach so many more people than a lifetime's worth of clinic visits or operations can impact. So that was like really the biggest thing for me over the past several years that I was not expecting. Like one of the most common questions I get asked is, did you ever expect any of this to blow up when you first uploaded? Hell no, man. No, nobody starts all this stuff expecting it to blow up. And I use blow up in very, very figurative and literal, or very loose terms, because even my numbers are tiny compared to some of the friends that I know that quote unquote blew up on the social media space. So you learn to just be grateful for any number that you get. Yeah.
That's hearing you describe, because I know art has always been very important to you, since high school. But I think it's such a poetic, point about how, the moment you start trying to fit in is the moment, you kind of almost castrate the most important, truest parts of yourself. And your story specifically, it models a lot of the great art, in terms of photography or cinema, where sometimes you can't plan the perfect shot, right? You might see it in your mind a certain way, the light needs to be here, the camera needs to be here, but sometimes some weird accident happens, and that's the greatest looking shot. A lot of movies have that, or photography, or other pieces of art, and your artistic career models that, but so does your professional academic career as well because of that. That's a really cool parallel, I think.
Oh God. What a transition. And what a transition. I know exactly where you're trying to go with this.
No, I don't. I'm just going where you're taking me, man. No, but I think that's something that a lot of people can really draw from, because I don't have any really artistic ambitions like that, but there have been moments where I'm okay, if I do everything on paper, great. And the moment I start doing it, I don't feel like myself. Mm-hmm. Things don't work out the way that maybe they don't work out as well. It's usually when I just kind of do my thing that I get really big opportunities, or I remember in undergrad, some of my bigger opportunities came from just pure genuine interests. I started teaching a lot at AU for TA'd for a few classes and then tutored a bunch, and that was really important to me personally, but I didn't have to work on building my CV up a certain way that other people did. I just through hanging out with some of my professors that I genuinely liked being around, or taking classes I genuinely liked, they're like, hey, you should do this. And it was a good opportunity for me, but I never really tried to premeditate that, it just, the dominoes fell in the perfect orientation. No.
And you don't realize that until you look back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It all falls. And that's one thing I will continue to say. It's so cliche, but it's so real that everything works out exactly the way it's supposed to. I think the biggest, up until honestly, just recently, the biggest God moment of, you're not going to know why now. Just trust me, bro. You'll understand in several years. That the biggest moment for me leading up till this year was me signing that BS&D contract. Of I didn't want to stay in Augusta. I wanted to go to Georgia. I was committed there. I signed everything. I had housing set up, and a week after the deadline of I'm not able to turn around and commit to the accelerated program, I turned back around, and they let me back in. Why I turned around, I still don't know. For the first year and a half, did I resent that decision? Absolutely. But now I'm so grateful that I did, because that's why I'm here. That's why this exists.
Yeah.
And so that was this one time where I wanted to go down this one path. he said, you know what? Nope. Go here. Trust me, bro. You're going to hate me. Just do it. And I think, again, that was the latest one. But then the most recent one is, I'll break the Y word out. Yes, I'm going to Yale for anesthesia residency. But the thing is, like, people are going to get caught up in that, like, word, that name, the Ivy. They're going to be like, you just went there because Ivy. No. It's because of this. I told you this yesterday. I switched. I was going to apply orthopedic surgery up until, like, late June. And when I made that switch, it was a very, very scary part of my life. I went back to anesthesia. I hadn't done, like, anesthesia, like, 7-8 months. I was really scared. It's like, this is so close to the deadline. Can I still do this? And so I was, like, looking around, of all places, Twitter. I hate that, puts out with a passion. But there is some free anesthesia webinar where they would, like, super low stakes, run through a case with, like, a mock case with you, talk about, like, your pre-op assessment, what you're looking for, your anesthetic plan, and then, like, post-op pain management. You walk through that with, like, a faculty member, and it was put on by MGH, Mass Gen Brigham, Emory, and Yale. There was leadership from all three of those programs there. To this day, signed up on a whim. Don't know why. I just saw it and was like, maybe this is a chance that I can, like, show myself that I can still do it. It was scary. And I went in there, everybody introduced themselves, they put us in breakout rooms. And the breakout room that I was in to go over the case with happened to be the Yale program director. And we're all doing our introductions and everything. And there's, somebody who did their introduction first, Lucille. You're not going to watch this, but what's up? From Case Western, just a brilliant anesthesia applicant. I think she's at Hopkins now, or she matched at Hopkins. But she did her introduction, and then, like, at the end of it, she goes, "Oh my God, Andy, like, I watch all your videos. I love them." And I was just like, haha, thank you. And then the Yale PD looks over and goes, "Videos? What's this all about?" And I was just sitting there like, this cannot be my introduction to the Yale PD. Like, this cannot be the way that, like, the context falls. Because, again, you always have to approach the social media topic in kind of like a medically tactful way. Also introducing in the side of the frame, good boy Milo, beautiful Will's dog. Editor placed full video of him here. Just serotonin bomb, good boy. But so I was in the breakout room, and I kind of laughed it off, talked about it a little bit, went through the entire case. But he was just the most positive, encouraging, gentle leader and mentor that I've ever experienced. And this was like, it gave me the confidence to be like, you know what, you can still do this. So I went through ERAS and everything, and, like, of course, they said, you know what, throw an application to Yale, why not? Got the interview, and the program was just, it was so different. I never felt such a just emotional connection to a program and what they're doing over there. They really take care of people as people, not trainees, not employees. They are training, like, top tier physicians, but above that, top tier humans, people. And that's something that fit my mission that we talked about throughout this podcast to a T. And of course, when you're doing your interview, you have an interview with the program director. And of course, he's seen my CV. He looked at all my stuff on YouTube and all my work on social media. And, like, before the interview was over, I just, like, took a moment and said, "Hey, Dr. Geyser, look, I don't know if you even remember me, but there was like the webinar a while ago. I was in that breakout room. I just wanted to, at the very least, regardless of if this interview goes well or not, whether or not I end up here, I just want to say thank you, because your encouragement at that time meant the world to me in a time that was very, very scary. And that was before I even knew I was going to get an interview. You did not understand the impact that you had on my life at that moment. So while I have you here, I just want to say thank you. And he looked at me and goes, Andy, I really appreciate it, but I think there's little thousands of people out there saying the same thing about you. And I was like, I'm going to cry. Don't do it. Hold back your tears. You were in your residency interview with the Yale program. Do not cry. Like, I felt it coming. I was like, oh, no. But like, all that going back to the being your weird little self, like, pays dividends. And that was one of those things that still stuck with me, like weeks and weeks after that interview. And of course, like, I'm so grateful to be there now, join the team there, and to just be a part of that kind of environment under that kind of leadership. And I'm sure, hopefully, if you guys would like, I can get Dr. Geyser on the podcast or the channel at some point to answer some of your questions, because he's just a bright ray of sunshine. Oh, and on top of all that, one of my co-interns was also in that breakout room. He texted me after like the match list ranked out, or like went out, or who matched where. That's what I mean. And he was like, "Oh my God, do you remember?" It's like, "Yo,
it's crazy."
And so I definitely have some ideas to talk with my program leadership, and even other programs to really develop that idea and that little free webinar thing, so that if that had such an impact to like two people who are literally now interns at the Yale anesthesia program, what can that do for the rest of people who are interested in anesthesia? So stay tuned for that. Again, leave your comments, suggestions about how we can develop that. Regardless, I'm totally planning on working on some sort of webinar to bring to you guys, because look where it brought me, and I don't take that experience for granted.
Good. I don't think we can end on a better note than that, man. That is that's crazy. That's you can't write that, dude.
It's been a good time. A crazy couple years, but let's make a cut. And we can just do some wrapping closing questions. Boop, back. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, any other lingering reflections? I know we could probably go on forever and ever. But there are a lot of lessons that med school has really taught me and will teach everybody. It's not just me. That far exceeds like a textbook, which is what the Beyond the Scope podcast is all about. All the things that the textbooks don't teach you. So what a fitting topic. But yeah, anything that you want to know to prepare you for like the last little steps of medical school. I say last little as if like you're like a fourth year.
I know, I got a ways to go, man. I don't know. I think we touched on a lot of really important things, like especially if you're going, into medical school. I think a lot of what you said is something that I wish I had known or thought about when I was going into first year, and it's certainly something I'll think about and try to practice going into my second year, getting ready for boards and then clinicals after that. And yeah, we definitely could go on forever because I'm sure that like the longer I sit here, the more questions I'll have about going forward. But is there, I guess, that's so cliche, but like any parting advice you have with medical school, like just that you haven't said already, right? Like things that you think are important for any of us to know, whether you're a first year like me, whether you're about to go into school, you're about to start rotations, like just anything at all.
When in doubt, go to where the people are. That may just be for me, but I think it's helped a lot of people. Like what a lot of people say is if you're burnt out of like studying, especially during step dedicated, like try to volunteer at one of the clinics because it regrounds you back into why you're doing it. But I think like even past the like clinic side of things, what it does is it realizes that, or it helps you to realize that at the end of the day, this is a human field that we work with. You're not treating a question stem. You're treating an actual human being with a family, with a context, with their own experiences, beliefs that you are not, your job is not to combat them. Your job is to understand them and see how you can help there. And none of that will be found in a textbook. None of that will be found in a lecture. I don't care how good your lecturer is. I don't care how many extra letters is next to that lecturer's last name. Only getting yourself out in the field, having conversations with people who are not the same as you, share different beliefs than you. Only then will you find how to really be a good doctor. When your job becomes no longer to find the question stem in this person, but when you are like, how can I listen to understand them? That's why you have that degree and that position as a career. If that sounds like what you want to do, keep on at it. If you're like in this period of wondering if this is what I want to do, return back to it. And that's what I'd say.
Well said.
Well, a little inspirational advice, but Will, thank you so much, for having me. Having me in a new city. I get to check off another city in the country off the list. It's good to see you thriving in med school, and Milo is keeping you company.
Can only do it because of him. He keeps me going.
But it's good to see kind of how far come even in the past like 4 years from like our first podcast recordings. But if we didn't answer any questions, or there's something that you want to know about kind of like the reflections of medical school, about what to expect or what to learn, one of the last 3 episodes I will be having will be a podcast with Rachel Southard as well as Sean Anderson, 2 of just wonderful people and friends that I've collected over the years throughout my time on YouTube. I'm sure we can probably dive deeper into those, so leave those in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Will's grandparents, hi. Thanks for watching.
Love y'all.
So, until next time, thanks. Heck yeah, we did it at the same time.
Oh, dude, that was... Keep that in. Whoever is editing this.
Editor, keep that in. Oh, also, editor, keep this in.
Milo. Milo, look at the camera, buddy. All right, Milo, what was the worst structure tagged on one of your anatomy practicals?
Is the mic even picking that up? He's camera shy. Good boy.
Good boy.
This is a chaotic ending.
I know.
Good boy, Milo.
You weren't camera shy earlier.
Milo. Dang.